What happens when dreams stop reflecting reality but begin to replace it? It's a question of escapism, but also a question of dreams in relation to the material world and the self. Paprika is a warning of the dangers in ignoring what dreams are meant to be. Subconscious reflections of the self shaped by our lived reality. They help us navigate complex emotions and memories we often attempt to ignore or repress. Yet they can also act just to ease the stress of everyday life. So the question returns, is it a form of escapism from reality or a reckoning with it? In our world, this conversation remains largely metaphorical, but in Paprika, a technology exists that allows people to dive directly into their own dreams, as well as the dreams of others, making the need to answer this question a priority. As the boundary between subconscious and conscious degrades, our sense of reality begins to fracture. Personal responsibility erodes. There is a fear that we will become detached from the material world we live in. Now, the reason you're here and the point of making this video is to make sense of that collapse and the question it raises about dreams, about consciousness, and about identity as they appear in Paprika. Each of its unique characters offer a different perspective to the major question. Are dreams meant to help us understand reality or escape from it? So to make sense of Paprika, we'll often use character analysis to ground the concepts of the story. And there's no better person to begin with than the man the film opens upon. It is said that dreams are a peek into our subconscious mind. As I speak to you now, and as you watch this video, we are actively within the scope of our conscious selves, the part of us that thinks, acts, and reacts directly with the material world, reality as it's often called. But the truth is that just because our conscious self interacts with this reality doesn't make this conscious a full picture of who we are, nor does what our conscious perceive make the full picture of what reality is. So for the sake of clarity, reality as you might describe the world around us will always be referenced in this video as the material world. And if that line of thinking confuses you, don't worry, you're not alone. Detective Konakawa is just as confused by dreams and the theories around them as one could be. When entering into the narrative, Konakawa is struggling with a reoccurring stress dream that he can't seem to make sense of. It's an absurd compilation of memory fragments, which beneath the surreal nature do carry a profound meaning, a meaning that his conscious self has repressed since his younger years. The detective experiences a natural function of dreams at work, that being the subconscious attempting to communicate something to the conscious self. Why it chose now at this moment to pester him to confront trauma is one of the many mysteries of the idea of self, which we're not even going to bother to touch. Now, the interesting thing about Detective Konakawa's method in which he confronts dreams is it diverges from what we'd consider normal. This is all due to a new invention named the DC Mini. The DC Mini disrupts the original nature of the subconscious, using dreams to slowly raise repressed trauma to the surface for the conscious to address. Now, with the usage of this headset, individuals can dream dive, as I'll call it, entering dreams of their own or another's and interacting with it, as well as recording it for review once waking. Dreams are initially private negotiations and conversations between the conscious and subconscious self. Yet now you're essentially creating a back door with this invention for strangers to enter, intervene with, and record the entire experience to review on film. This is a stark change from the paced exposure one would experience normally. Now, whether this invention is good or bad for humanity is a conversation of this story. Well, yes, it is a man-made tool intervening in a natural process we never thought would be manipulated. Such is the nature of everything science. It is invasive in both the best and worst ways. Science is like a form of evolution that progresses at a speed natural evolution would be jealous of. There are benefits to the DC unit as a tool for therapy, allowing a new way of helping people address trauma as they appear within their subconscious, but its existence runs the risk of being used for malicious intent. Essentially, the DC unit allows one to invade the mind of another, which goes from tool to weapon in the wrong hands. And so its rapid invention raises concerns of regulation. The research facility responsible for this technology's creation has individuals on both sides of the aisle for whether this invention should be allowed to exist and be utilized. That is at least how it appears at first. Atsuko, Tokita, and Shima all favor innovation and see the good they can do with this tool, while the chairman represents the role of a traditionalist, worried about the dangers of unchecked progressivism, or so he claims. It's worth lifting the veil on his character now to best understand the intent behind his actions, as well as his co-conspirators, Osanai. 3 DC unit devices go missing, being used in incidents which could only be called terrorism. As mentioned earlier, the DC Mini allows one to intrude into another's subconscious, but the window to manipulate someone becomes much larger than originally known, as it's discovered that anyone who has used the device can be targeted waking or sleeping. This is a side effect of prolonged exposure. Dream imagery and logic start to spill into users' waking lives, even when the headset isn't in use. Think of this as like daydreaming to an extreme, but that's not all. Osanai and the chairman have discovered the ability to overload subjects with dream imagery and cause their conscious to confuse the two worlds, speaking gibberish, performing strange movements. The longer they remain trapped in this stasis, the stronger the possibility they'll never wake back to the material world. Subjects begin to think of this dream world as reality, and their conscious then abandons the material. The chairman claims that this is exactly what he was worried about, as it goes against what traditionally was thought possible. But in reality, his hands are red with the acts of terror and the disappearance of the 3 missing devices. He only takes this stance against the DC units as a way of restricting access to the devices. The greatest threats to progress seem to always be those who attempt not to caution advancement, but to control inventions as they seek to wield its outcomes for personal gain. This is in opposition to the ideals of the device's creator, Tokita. The larger-than-life man is incredibly immature when it comes to understanding the dangers of his work. He's a genius that invents out of ideals like, what if you could share a dream with your best friend? And this childish idea is exactly what prompted the invention of the DC units. It wasn't for helping people tormented by dreams like Atsuko would have thought of, or to escape into the world of dreams like the chairman or Osanai would have thought of. This childish idealism is nice on paper, but dangerous, as Tokita doesn't have the understanding of the dangers of inventions. Hence, his device was put into use before proper safety protocols existed, and rather than as its creator stepping in and addressing these glaring issues, Tokita avoids the problem. He avoids the fact they're being used for bad. That is until Atsuko pushes him to stop being avoidant of responsibility. Tokita eventually helps solve the crisis that already claimed the life of his assistant. Now, Tokita's assistant is a look at the finality of what the chairman and Osanai are causing. His body is practically dead, yet still he dreams. The body is like a cocoon the butterfly has fled. Yet if the man was the caterpillar, the insect that exited is something no longer the one we knew. That's the effect of their invasion of dreams. They enter and through overexposure, allow the dreams to convince the victims into accepting dreams as better than reality. Often what motivates people to think of dreams as better than reality is the lack of responsibility within them. Yet the drawback to a dream world is there's nowhere to go, no goal, no purpose, no meaning. It's an ideal, it's not reality. Dreams are a collection of abstract absurdities from the material, and so choosing to see that as reality leaves you parading around speaking gibberish, lost in a delusion of unending pleasure. Hence the imagery of the parade to nowhere. The dreamers have no form, no motivations, no goals. The odd part about taking the stance that your dreams are the new reality is that your dreams are nothing without the material world. They're made up of the experiences and thoughts your entire self has in relation to your conscious reality. Thus, there is a clear relationship here between dreams and reality that one can't or shouldn't stray from. That being, dreams are interactions with fragments of reality shaped in a way that your subconscious thinks you need or want. Dreams are supposed to be temporary. They're there to help your conscious self, not give you a world to permanently replace the material world. Pleasant dreams allow one to de-stress. Unpleasant dreams allow one to confront a problematic event. Whatever form dreams come in, they're there to serve and help you, which leads to the case of Atsuko and her alter ego, Paprika. These two are the same person, and when I say that, I mean they're parts of a whole. Atsuko is the part of the self that interacts with the material world. She is shaped in a way to deal with real-world responsibilities, be it everyday problems or moral and ethical predicaments. Paprika, on the other hand, is her subconscious self, or dream self, if you want to call it that. Because dreams are part of the subconscious, Paprika exists within them. Carl Jung would have probably labeled Paprika as the shadow of Atsuko, because the personality aspects of Paprika are the ones that have been repressed from the surface. Thus, this character reads as an opposite of the persona or identity that is Atsuko. She is free-spirited, uppity, yet she still supports the conscious self that is Atsuko. Their conversations with one another are always Paprika offering to help her de-stress or help her confront herself. For instance, Paprika never gives Atsuko the answers she seeks about herself, which we see with the fact that Paprika is aware of how Atsuko feels towards Tokita. Instead of just handing her the answers, she motivates her to find the truth within herself, or to better phrase, recognize what she already knows to be true deep down. Whenever these two talk with one another, just think of it as a conversation with yourself. Not a conversation with the voice you may be hearing in your head, as that's still the conscious you, but the part of you that creates your dreams, the subconscious you. It may be easier to understand if I phrase it as you are a fragmented being, only partially aware of yourself. We can use a rather basic fragmentation since it's probably the most relevant to Paprika. So in this case, think of yourself as 3 layers. There's the unconscious way at the bottom that holds repressed memories, thoughts, instincts. Then there's the subconscious, in the case of the movie Paprika, that mediates the unconscious and surfaces portions it feels relevant to the conscious. Now, the conscious is like the me that's speaking right now, and it experiences and processes the world around you, which is then filtered to the other 2 layers of you. And in a way, each of the 3 layers thinks about the importance of this experience and logs it according to where it should belong. Should it be repressed? Should it be vividly remembered? Should it appear in dreams? Konakawa is a good example of this system at work. His memory of failing to finish shooting a movie with his friend at 17 haunts his dreams. Yet this memory was repressed into the unconscious long ago, leaving the conscious confused and stressed by the subconscious's attempts to resurface this memory to itself. It could be that now was chosen as the moment to resurface, as his self believes the conscious is now better prepared to make peace with this memory, as obviously when it happened, his response was initially to bury it somewhere he'd forget. This becomes a very important plot line, as Konakawa is able to confront this trauma in a healthy manner, and what helped him speed up that process was therapy using the DC unit, making a case for why the invention is a positive. This therapy approach is the proper usage of such a device. It isn't using the unit as a way of escaping into the dreams to avoid responsibility, which, if used in this way, is basically avoiding the intention behind trauma dreams. Konakawa's case makes the DC unit feel like a good aid in bettering humanity, showing that when it is used properly, it is a positive for humanity. Though the question remains, is its existence worth the possibility of it being used incorrectly? In the case of Atsuko and Paprika, as well as the detectives, we see what a healthy relationship with dreams looks like. Now, the 2 parts of the therapist don't see dreams as something to escape to, but to help one process life of the material world. Thus, their approach to using the DC unit was to help others do just that. Osanai and the chairman represent represent the negative possibility we spoke of, using the DC unit to escape from the material world and its responsibilities. But with that said, they even take it a step further by lusting for control over dreams. This creates a metaphor for collective delusion manifesting through dreams. The people of Japan get trapped in the middle of this pair's hostile takeover of the dream world. Some join in on the escapist mindset by falling in line of the parade to nowhere. Now, why this blurring line of what reality is happens, and how the dream world is overlapping with the material world is a wonderful question, and the next we'll tackle. There is this possibility that's explored in philosophy, psychology, even spirituality, of some collective connection between individuals, you and me. And we talked earlier of this type of connection existing between dreams, as the DC unit gives users the ability to explore the dreams of others. So in a hypothetical, what would happen if we as a collective society stopped living in the material world and chose to begin living in our dreams? What happens when we begin ignoring the world around us and only indulge in our personal desires for the world? Reality is often defined by what we as a collective group see as real or the truth. People who don't abide by this reality we see as delusional. But if we all begin living in the dreams of what we wish reality to be, then at some point, doesn't what is real become these delusions? Dreams are different from reality, as we see reality as bound by the laws of the material world. This is true, but it's easy to forget that when you desperately want to delude yourself with fantasies. We do want to believe in the fictional, as it is much more fun and pleasurable. Now, if the majority do this, while it may not result in a wild confrontation like we see in Paprika, it could result in a collective shift in what we claim is reality. It's like how lies can become the truth if enough people believe it. So arises a question posed to the detective as he looks over the changing landscape of dreams colliding with the material world. Is the whole world dreaming? Could it be that we often escape reality, constantly dreaming of foreign or fantasy lands, because we crave that which is unrestrained by the responsibilities that exist in the world as it appears before us? Is this escapism, while in moderation fine, dangerous when overindulged? We've looked at Satoshi Kon's work in Paranoia Agent before, and where that was an exploration on collective delusion as it relates to skewed truth and reality, in Paprika, the collective delusion lies in dreams, or more so, the delusion and fantasy that exist within dreams. The commentary isn't on dreams being a bad thing, but on the user's perception of dreams being the changing factor. The reason this becomes so dangerous is that an object that allows for control of dreams appears, giving man a chance, like we have with everything we harness, to use it for the betterment of all people or for personal gain. Controlling a object such as the DC unit is necessary, but for that control to fall in the lap of someone with malicious intent is the problem. Kon has always made things not a question of black and white, but a question that asks us to think more. Many things in life are a tug-of-war game we attempt to keep in a stalemate as long as possible. We don't want too much progress too fast, as then there's holes and dangers we can't account for, and we don't want stagnation, as then not just the old but new problems will never get solved. People like the chairman and Olsenai will always exist, those who wish to selfishly gain from the progress of others and in their misdeeds, trapping others in their selfish little dream worlds. Some people will get lost like them, choosing the dream over the material. It doesn't make them bad people, it just makes them lost ones, members of the aimless parade to nowhere. This conflict between escapists and those who accept reality culminates with a confrontation as old as time. The young seize power from the old. No matter how controlling, how strong they are, they will always relinquish. Eventually, nature will claim their body. Their power in this sense is limited. The chairman cannot reverse time. This young child form of Atsuko consumes the chairman at a state of full power, dethroning him and clearing the way for a new wave of ideas, using the DC unit not as an attempt to control outcomes of dreams, but as a tool to assist in building healthy relationships with dreams. Whether you agree with the existence of the DC unit or not, it doesn't change the fact it exists. Even if you were to destroy them, at some point, at some day, they'll just be made again. Traditionalism has a place for ensuring those who push boundaries reflect on the consequences of invention or change, the very thing Tokita initially lacked the ability to do. But when traditionalism shifts into seeking to control, it stops being a useful ideology. The irony lies in the fact that those who attempted to take the stance of warning of the dangers of the DC unit were the very dangers they proposed. Often these types of self-proclaimed traditionalists know they cannot prevent innovation, and so they wish to eliminate others' access to innovation as a way of maintaining their control. I say this because the reality of traditionalism is that it too can be wielded for self-serving desire. There are those who like this ideology because they are well off and they don't want things to change because they may lose their status, their wealth, or power. So they mean to control the progression of society to always favor their authority. What likely motivated the chairman to claim he is against the DC unit but use it for personal gain was likely the fact he could regain power he was losing with age. In the dream world, he could control Osanai's body, get back his youth, the strength that comes with it, as well as functioning legs. But does escaping into reality and denying the truth of one's existence benefit the individual? No, it's delusional. We saw it lay ruin to the chairman as well as Osanai. His obsession with controlling dream worlds disregards the autonomy of individuals. He claims to love Atsuko, but refuses to give her free will to decide how she feels. He wishes for the puppet he sees in his dreams that just allows him to do as he pleases. It's, as we said, delusional. There are assault cases that follow this exact premise of Osanai's delusion. The assailant believes that they have a right to harm the victim, and this rejection of reality, that you cannot force another person to love you, is yet another danger of unhealthy perceptions of dreams. We shouldn't disregard the nature of reality, as doing so is a rejection of our personal responsibility as thinking, feeling beings. So where does that leave us? If we look around us, talk to the people around us, we'll find that there are those who seem lost in their dreams. But there are also those who seem to grasp the reality of our world and our responsibility within it. The issue isn't dreams themselves, but our own relationships with them. Do I allow my dreams to dictate how I see reality? Or do I allow this subconscious world and self to help me better understand myself? Detective Konakawa comes to acknowledge his past trauma because of his subconscious self, and thus builds a healthier relationship with not just the part of him that brought this repressed trauma to the surface, but with his entire self. After reckoning with the memory, it's like a weight was lifted off his shoulders, and now he can better enjoy life. Like Atsuko and Paprika, he's able to acknowledge the role both his conscious and his subconscious have with one another to help oneself navigate the absurd nature of life. He successfully avoids the trap that dreams are something to escape into and hide from the material world's structure of responsibility and ethics. So to answer the question we began with, are dreams an escape from reality or a reckoning with it? The answer is that dreams are neither. Just as the DC unit was merely a neutral tool, so too are dreams. We have a personal responsibility to wield dreams for the betterment of the self and others, not as an escape latch or motivation for control. So the question Satoshi Kon leaves us with then is, are you dreaming to escape reality, or are you dreaming to understand it?